Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of the Jade Mechanic Podcast. It's a Thursday night. It's unusual to record on a Thursday night, but I mean, sometimes your guests are literal like superstars and are busy, and you have to make it happen when it can happen. So tonight I'm sitting with a fellow podcaster and somebody that I've been talking with for the last 6 months off and on. He kind of comes across as very much like me sometimes, very crass, very opinionated, very believes what he says, take no prisoner type thing. And sometimes, he'll say things in a way to poke the bear. And he said some stuff the other day that got me poked, and we're like, okay, finally, that's it, Kevin. You're going to be on the fucking podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kevin Brown. Kevin, how are you, buddy?
I'm great. And that doesn't sound like me that you're just kind of painted the picture of. I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, go back and watch one of your clips. Kevin, you're kind of like, I don't want to say you're a big deal, but in Michigan, you're a pretty successful man, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been in the business for 35 years and I'm well known. That's for sure.
Yeah. You own 5 businesses now?
Yep. I own 3 different, I have 2 locations. I have a trailer parts store, a truck collision shop. I do sandblasting there, painting, obviously. We do box repair.
Yeah.
At my Farmington location, we do everything bumper to bumper mechanically, cars, trucks, medium, heavies, whatever, trailers.
Mm-hmm. And you're a technician at heart, like you were a tech.
Yes, I'm a master collision, master truck, master auto, and master motorcycle tech.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Not that I'm like, don't know that, right? Yes, I started out in 1990. I graduated in 89. In 1990, I started at my first shop, and I worked at that shop. Then I worked at Sterling Performance, which I did high speed boat motors.
Okay.
And then I went to Garrett Auto and Truck in 1995, and now I own Garrett Auto and Truck.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yes, I'm the guy that started making the fries at McDonald's. Now I own a McDonald's.
What's it like to work somewhere and then eventually own it? Because I know that that's not all that uncommon necessarily in our industry. We do see people that were like, well, I worked here forever, and then eventually the owner sold it to me. Was it kind of that way for you, or was it like was there a hostile takeover, or did it just be kind of it was an opportunity that presented itself later and you went in and bought it? I guess is what I'm asking.
I'll just give you the short story. I started there as a tech. I became friends with the owner, who really didn't know a lot about business. They were struggling. When I started there, I started $11.50 an hour, and they didn't know how to write an estimate really. Back then, they would just do the work and give the people the bill. And I used to call it 4 o'clock holy shit hour. It was religious hour because everybody would say holy shit when they get their bill.
Yeah.
In my first shop, Hale's Auto Clinic, he was a very sharp businessman, so he showed us how to write our own estimate. So as a tech back then, I would check out the vehicle, I would write my own estimate, I would mark everything up per his sheet he gave me, and I would sell it, right?
Right.
So what I didn't realize back then, I was learning how to be kind of a service advisor, right, of my own.
Yeah.
So when I went to Garrett Auto and Truck, I was there about 3 months, and I said, you guys aren't charging enough. You're charging $100 for brakes when right across the street at Hale's Auto Clinic, he's getting $350.
Mm-hmm.
So they started letting me do my own estimates. Well, that caused a problem with the old man who owned the place. I would sell, say, an estimate for $350. He would say that's highway robbery. He would cut it in half and sell it to him in half and give it to him on credit. So fast forwarding through all that, his dad retired, Steve, started letting me run the shop more and more. Well, I came to him one day. I said, Steve, I'm literally out of experience. I don't really know what to do anymore than I've already done. And I pulled out a piece of paper a couple weeks after that. Nothing came of that. He's kind of ignoring me, from Management Success, Mike Lee. Okay. And I said, we should go to this Pennsylvania 2-day class in Ohio on how to run a shop. So we drove to Ohio or Pennsylvania in my truck. And at that point, they sold us, gave him $10,000 for a consulting program. He put it on his credit card, maxed his credit card out, and we had to get to Glendale, California. And that's where the journey really begun, where we learned what our numbers were and how to mark up stuff and how to actually run a business by statistics. And that changed everything.
Right. What was the senior, the old man, the father's position? What was his thinking and why it was like he had to cut the bill that you created in half and then give the other half of it? Like essentially, you were saying like he made them pay. Did I hear that right? They paid half, and then the other half had to go on credit.
Yeah, or he would just cut the bill in half. It was 300. He'd say, "Give me 150." And sometimes he'd say, "Give me cash," and I'd put it in my pocket. Or they didn't have the money, he would put it on account. So either way, the shop wasn't seeing the money, right? If it was cash, it was going in his pocket. If it was on credit, these people weren't paying. They had no money.
Right.
So that crate that was burned and everything.
He set himself up as that shop that was like the last ditch. Everybody with the sob story and no money wound up there.
You're 100% right.
I wish that's why is that such a prolific pattern that seems to happen in this industry? What, like, because you, as long as you and I have been talking, which hasn't been a long time, but I like, you don't suffer any fools. You knew very early on that was not, I want to say probably before you went on the management course that you just spoke of, you knew that was not right. Yet why do so many just think that that's the way it has to be?
Honestly, Jeff, I don't believe that most shop owners are evil.
Mm-hmm.
I think most shop owners are egotistical.
Yeah.
And I also believe that they can't look at somebody and say, "I just don't know."
Right.
I don't know what to do. Okay. Like I've seen this over and over again where these guys are broke because they won't sell somebody something. Then I've seen the other side of the coin where the shop owner lives in a mansion, drives a Mercedes, is always crying how broke he is when he just got back from vacation for 2 weeks and expected a service advisor to kill himself to run his business.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't say that I've ever seen middle ground between those two extremes. You know what I mean? In my career, a lot of the time, I've worked with way more barely getting by, having to count the pennies type of owners because of they're not putting the priority on where it should be, which is taking care of themselves and their people. They're always thinking they got to serve the customer. And then I've seen that the ones that you spoke of, the greedy, wealthy, always saying they have no money. That has been my experience, has been at the dealership level, right? Which is a different thing. So, but I can't say that there's some middle ground there. Not until I started to meet some with my networking that I do, but I can't say that I've ever worked for the ones in the middle. You know what I mean?
No, and one of the things I pride myself on, number one, I was a technician first, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I have my guys on flat rate. I've asked them all, "Hey, do you want to go to hourly?" You know what their answer is? Hell no.
Yeah.
But I am one of the few shops around that charge for diagnosis, and I don't for diagnostic work, okay? I do not. And then the customer comes up and says, "Well, if I buy the cylinder head, job because it's got a leaking head gasket, will you roll the diagnostic work into the repair order?" And my answer is always no.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why that technician spent, we'll just say from 8 to 10 figuring this problem out and writing it up, why would I steal 2 hours of that man's life? You know what? Steve Jobs said it the best. The journey is the reward. You cannot buy, the one thing you cannot buy no matter how much money you have is time.
That's right.
Okay. So these guys breaking their bodies for you and everything else, as an owner, you have to look at it and say, okay, I'm going to take care of these people. And unfortunately, the way it is, the customer has to pay for their expertise. And if they don't, I'm sorry, but they're at the wrong shop.
Yeah. Yeah. So this shop, that the old man that, was giving away everything and cash and all that kind of stuff, he started to work with his son and then bought the business.
Me and his son became best friends quickly.
Okay.
He died, it was the second year this year. He had a 5-year journey with cancer. We started Motor City Truck Collision together too. He just was a low key guy that if he made just enough money to pay his bills and he didn't have to really work hard, he was okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
He used to always tell me, "My God, Kevin, you're always moving the goalpost on me. You're always pushing. And I said, "Because I'm not happy making the money we're making. I want to have a shop that I can pay my bills, pay my people, and go home at the end of the day and not worried about paying my bills tomorrow because I didn't make enough money."
Right.
And be honest with you, Jeff, for a long time, I didn't know what that looked like because with him with him owning the shop, and later I'll get to that. I bought in. He came back from vacation one time after a 2-week vacation, and in the meantime, when he's on vacation, he left me to do everything. I said, I'm done. I talked to the Mackel man. He said, you should get a route. We got one right open. A guy retired. It's a huge route. I said, all right, put me in. So they signed me up, and I had everything ready to go. When he came back, I said, I'm all done. I'm just not running your shop.
Yeah.
He said, what if I make you a part owner? I'll give you 10%, and every year till I sell it to you, I'll give you 1% equity. I said, that seems to be okay. And I ended up doing that. And at that point, I had a little bit of skin in the game, right? I wasn't working to make somebody else money. And at that point, you could ask my guys, you could interview all my guys. They thought I owned the place as they started working, because I ran everything. I made all the decisions at that point, and he kind of let me do what I wanted to do. So I applied everything management success taught me. And you know what ended up happening? I ended up turning over my crew. I ended up having everybody quit, because once I started putting metrics on guys that I was paying hourly, and I'm not saying every guy's like this, don't get me wrong, but the guys I had there, we're paying them for 40 hours and they're doing 10 hours of labor a week.
10.
And that's 10. I remember Al McCoy was doing 9, 10, 11 hours a week. I'm like, I'm paying him a guy for 40. So I said, listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you guys on flat rate. Back then it was commission, remember,
Yeah.
So they would make the same amount of money if they turned the same amount of hours, so I didn't screw them. Pretty much all of them quit, and I turned over the crew. At that point, the shop just changed. Back then, I was a lot more, believe it or not, I was a lot more high-strung, push. But, all them guys are with me still today, except for one. He got all crazy and just quit. But these guys all make a really good living. And I'm proud to say, like my service advisor today, tomorrow I came in, he said, guess what I did? I said, what? He's like, I sold my car. I bought a new Tesla Model 3. He was happy, and I was happy for him.
Yeah.
I'm like, good for you, man. I said, I'll come over to your house and hook up the charger for you. I said, I know how to do it. They don't use a neutral Tesla. I just did it, blah, blah, blah. And that makes me happy. That did not make me mad. That made me happy that man can go out and buy a car and can be excited enough to tell me, hey, I just bought this.
Yeah.
I'm like, good for you.
Yeah. That's pretty rewarding. The low producing guys that you had, do you think that was just the way they always were, or could it have been a byproduct of having to work for that gentleman, like where it was always done cheap and nobody was really watching? Do you think they just evolved into that?
I believe a little of both, 100%. I believe they weren't the right people, but I do agree with 100%. If there's not metrics on you, you've been a tech for a long time. Yeah. You want to hear, hey, Jeff, you did 45 hours last week and you're here 30. You're like, hell yes, right?
Yeah.
Never once you're like, hey, you were here 40 and you did 9 hours. You'd be like, ugh, right?
Right.
So that just goes to show a mindset on them guys, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
One had a drinking problem. We helped him. He ended up quitting. I just don't think we had the right people in the right places. How's that? They didn't want better for themselves.
Yeah. You got to have and I'm not, the skin in the game thing, I'm not quite there where I understand it. I think it does work. I think it's a very good way. I'm not trusting enough yet for most employers that I would say, oh yeah, I want skin in the game. But I do see how it does work for the right people. I think that those people that we see low performing, a lot of the time, when we talk about it in the groups, sometimes you just like, you see shops and they're like, oh, I can't get my guys to do, 20 hours a week. Well, what do you pay them? And it's crap. And it's like, okay, so you've hired crap and you're getting crap results. Where's the confusion here? Like crap in, crap out. Like you get what you pay for, as I always say. But then you see some other people where it's like they're legit paying really, really well, but their people are still not producing. And then sometimes it's like what my intrinsic brain wants to know is, okay, so I want to then see your sheets to know how you're charging, because maybe then their production is low because you're, again, not charging enough hours. Or are they just not motivated because they have bad attitudes? You know what I mean?
We imagine a world where the customer experience is seamless for auto repair. Where every interaction is effortless.
Hey Jen, Sam here. How can I help you?
Hi, Sam. I just had a warning light pop up, and I think
Every
I remember you told me
detail
last
is
time
anticipated.
to issue around now.
Yeah, it looks like last time you were in, we said there was something that we could possibly need to address with your spark plugs. So let's get you in here and make sure everything's good before you go in your lawn.
And every customer feels
You'll
valued.
be getting a text alert shortly. We're going to send Jerry over the car. You'll be able to swap cars with him, so you have a loaner for the rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
This is the future with Techmetric. A fully connected system designed to redefine how auto repair shops operate and deliver excellence. From streamlined appointment scheduling to real-time updates, Techmetric empowers shops to work smarter. With integrated payments, transparent pricing, and instant
Actually, it
communication,
was just as we thought. Definitely going to need to replace the spark plug.
customers stay informed and in control at every
Charge,
step.
and we should have that car back to you in a couple hours.
Sounds great.
In Techmetric shops, decisions are powered by data. Owners can track progress in real time. Technicians have the tools to succeed, and service writers focused on what matters most. Building trust with customers. It's not just a repair, it's an experience. A seamless, efficient, and customer-first journey
Jan, it's Mike.
that keeps people coming back.
Sure everything was to your satisfaction?
Fantastic.
Good to hear.
With Techmetric, every moment matters. Every interaction counts.
That's
Or you have the wrong service advisor in place.
yes. I could.
I told your story the other, not to cut you off. I told your story the other day. I said, I was talking to Jeff and he said the service advisor didn't sell something. Jeff said, you need to pull the money out of your pocket right now and pay me.
Yeah.
Give me the money. If you're not going to sell what I told you, give me the money because you're costing me money. And I believe that 100%.
Yeah. And I'm not proud of the way I was back then. Let me just reiterate that. I'm not proud of the way I was. But I was in a place where it was like I knew I was right because it was told to me. If you tell me to go check out a signal light problem, but you tell me that the customer is not going to buy a bulb, okay, cool. So I go out and I pull the bulb out because that's how I have to do my testing is at the bulb. And I see that the bulb is bad, but I still do my testing and prove out that it's a bulb. And I go back in there and I say, okay, that's 15 minutes, right? I proved out what is wrong. It needs a bulb. Okay, well, she's going to take it and have her husband put in. Cool, I got no problem with that. You know, I can put that tail lamp back in 2 seconds with my eyes closed. You still got to pay the technician because you tasked him with inspecting this problem. And it was, you know, the money is the money, right? It wasn't the money at that point. It was the what's the word I'm trying to think of? The principle of it at the time was why I was so angry. Because it's like doublespeak. You're telling me to do something, but you're telling me that if I find this solution, it's not worth anything, and you can't pay me because you can't charge them. The communication breakdown was that you didn't convey to the customer, I'm going to have to pay my person to inspect this. Where he's going to inspect it, he's going to give you a result. That's what you're paying for. Now, if you want to go home and put a bulb in yourself, that's cool. He still is going to confirm it only is a bulb. That's worth something. For somebody to say, I'm not going to pay you because it's just a bulb, you still task me with doing the job. When you task me with doing the job, I do the job, you get paid. It's as simple as that. There's no flex for me on that. When I fail to do the job, then we could talk about not getting paid. Totally understand that. If I make a missed Diag, I don't expect to get paid. But if you tell me to Diag something and I Diag it for you, you're fucking going to pay me.
100%. And you know what I tell my guys? We have a sheet actually in my shop. If I ask them to do something, they fill out the sheet. And I tell them, hey, I'll give you 0.5 to do that. They fill out the sheet and they give it to the service advisor and gets put on their paycheck. He gives it to my wife. Because once again, you are not there for free. Now, if you want to give your time away for free, that's a whole different story, right? But at my shops, nobody's allowed to give anything away for free but me. And we don't do it. And it's not that I'm a dick, but people need to pay for your expertise. There's lots of years of knowledge. There's tools. There's struggles. I can't tell you how many Christmas Eves have been ruined over my life over that shop. I started closing Christmas Eve because shit would happen Christmas Eve that would ruin Christmas. I would be sitting there at Christmas with a stomach ache.
Yeah.
I just don't do it anymore. You know what I realized is it's easier to forego the money than deal with the pain.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the way I look at it. And it's
Now,
just,
you mean like cars that didn't get done on time and they
I'll give you an example. We
Okay.
freaking did 4-wheel brakes on a Grand Marquis, and the guy didn't tighten the lug nuts up. The guy made it about 30 miles and the wheels fell off the freaking car on New Year's Eve, or on Christmas Eve one year. The guy's name was Herb Frost, his car. Okay. He worked for Gale Insulation. Tell me that's not burned into my brain.
Yeah.
You know, and we had to have a tow truck, get a car. We had to figure out a rental car on Christmas Eve. Okay. It just wasn't worth it.
I can tell you a Christmas Eve story. I remember working at the dealership. We were closing at 4. Now, this was a dealership. This was Christmas Eve. We were lucky that we're closing at 4, not at 5. They had forego for another year, decided they weren't going to buy us any kind of special lunch or anything for Christmas Eve because, you know, the dealer wasn't doing what it had to do. And I can remember having a customer come in at 3:30 for a brake inspection on a Caravan. And I only had to drive around the building to know that it was like the front brakes were absolutely metal on metal. Like it was past the point of friction material. You're metal on metal. And I'm not talking squealers. I'm talking like, you know, the sound, right? And then, so of course it's drum brakes in the back of them on the older Caravans. So I fight to get the drums off because up here, you know, in the Rust Belt, they seize on. I get them all apart. I prep the estimate just for the customer. And it was one of them names with a whole lot of consonants and not all too many vowels, you know, and there was a language barrier just for me to explain to him and get, you know, prep the estimate for the brake job and all that kind of stuff for him to say, well, I'm going to go to Canadian Tire because they're cheaper. Now that was my Christmas Eve. Now this gentleman, he didn't celebrate Christmas. It's not in his religion, which is fine. And I'm not trying to sound like a racist dick or anything and just whatever. But it was one of them things where I was like, I made the vow right then and there. I was never going to work another Christmas Eve or the 24th of December anywhere. I don't do it. It's just a rule of mine now. If I do have to work it for some strange reason, I'm gone by noon. That's my cutoff. Because it was like I'd been there all day long. It was not a busy day. And, you know, I'm doing something that was just a waste of my time, you know, because I got paid 0.5 for that brake inspection, but I had more than 0.5 into it by the time I got it done. It was a customer that had never been there before, never saw him again. You know, we sacrificed me
Right.
to make a half an hour labor. And I just was like, I wasn't good with that anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of how with Saturdays too. I ended up, when I got rid of my service advisor, had been with me for 14 years because I caught him doing some bad things. I started looking at Saturdays and realized my guys were coming in and they weren't making hardly any money. So we had a couple fleets. I called the fleets up, said, hey, we're closing Saturdays. And one fleet said, well, if you close Saturdays, you lose us as a customer. I said, okay, well, I'll bring your extra keys back. And it was great doing business with you.
Yeah.
And we never looked back. And we worked 7 to 4, Monday through Friday, no holidays, no weekends. And my guys love it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every other shop around here, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. I think probably latest now, 6:30. After COVID, the dealership guys were like, we're not doing this 9 o'clock bullshit.
Yeah.
So if you're a business owner that knows how to run your shop and mark up your parts correctly and write your estimates correctly, you could afford to make enough money in 40 hours to let your people have a life.
Mm-hmm. Now, going back to the Saturday thing, when you said your guys were not making a lot of hours on Saturday, was it just the work wasn't there? Or was it a situation of like, because I know I would come in some Saturdays and we had one advisor, I really liked him, but he despised the fact that he had to be there. So he was not motivated to sell. So you knew that if you picked that, if you were on that advisor Saturday, you weren't going to have a good day because he was not going to make a lot of appointments. Like people may drop in, but he didn't make appointments for Saturday. The other guys, when they knew that they were going to be on the schedule for that Saturday, they made appointments. You know, if Mrs. Smith called on Wednesday, I'm going to be here Saturday, Mrs. Smith, bring it in Saturday. You know, you got a brake book complaint. Cool. We can get that done for you on Saturday. The other advisor would not. Then when he was also there, he didn't he hated to sell. He was very much, he did estimates from his wallet, his own wallet. Like he had his emotionally invested, as I say all the time. Whereas then I could work for another advisor on the same Saturday. And again, I wasn't smart enough back then to be looking at car count, Kevin, and all that stuff like I would be now, right? To say how many ROs do we open today versus this day? That was the stuff of the manager's job at the time. But I knew that if I was going to work with that advisor, I was going to have I had a 28-hour day working with that advisor one day, Saturday.
So how it started with us, we had all these fleets on Saturday and we had autonomy with them. They were longtime customers. So they'd say, hey, you could do X, Y, and Z. Like we had Capital Tire. Mark, the manager, wanted his Isuzu trucks followed exactly the manufacturer's recommendations. He would run his trucks at 350,000 miles and he would scrap them, right? So we could do trans flushes, brakes, whatever, kingpins, no problem. A new manager came in, they tapered it down. You're allowed to spend $400.
Yeah.
Then this company, new manager came in, you're allowed to spend $300. So instead of us, doing work that the trucks needed, we're doing oil changes and tire rotations on Isuzu trucks, and the guys are not making any money.
That's right.
So I'm like, it's not worth my guys not coming in there. So it wasn't that we weren't open on Saturdays for the general public. We were doing all these fleets. So basically the times changed, the bean counters got involved.
Yeah. That's a funny thing, eh? Because I've met in my background too, a lot of fleet managers, and some of them are great. And then others are absolute tools about all they're trying to do is boost their bonus by spending almost nothing on the fleet, right? And it almost seems like they were allowed to be, well, it's okay if we pay 4 times as much next year for tow truck fees to tow it in when it's, something could have been prevented happens. That's okay because that comes out of this column. But at the end of the year, we're like, if we'd have just flushed the coolant out of that, you wouldn't be overheating on the side of the road, and but it was okay because that. And then I had other fleet managers, just like you said, that were like, whatever the book says to maintain the thing, do that as the bare minimum and anything else you see. And they were great. Not because we were taking advantage of them, but because their stuff never broke down.
Yeah, most people don't realize it because most people don't really know their numbers. A problem that's going on in our business, not only with medium, heavy truck, cars, everything, is car counts are going down. Cycle time is going up because their cars are more complicated. And, I talked to my friend Hal, and he's like, the one thing I used to always struggle with was, my car count going down. I go, yeah, but look at your average repair order has gone up and they're here longer because cars are so much more complicated. Like last month, I did 79 jobs at Garrett Auto and Truck, and I did 22 at Motor City Truck Collision. Okay, I know my numbers and I know why they are. I sit there and I dissect it. And the reason I'm going into this because a lot of these business shop owners do not take the time to learn their numbers. And what ends up happening is somebody's got to get screwed. So they start cutting pay, cutting advertising, stuff like that, because these guys don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And it's causing a problem through the industry. When I look at TikTok, I look at all the different shop owners, like Check Engine Chuck. He's probably one of the smartest guys I've ever met when it comes to electronics. The guy's a freaking genius, right?
Yep.
Brandon Sloan. You listen to him, he knows what he's talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these guys talk about the mechanical part, and they're all damn good at it. There's not a lot of guys that actually break down the numbers of where they should be in a shop.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask these guys, hey, what percentage of your gross should be your payroll? What should be your insurance? They don't know this stuff. And they don't also know how they say, oh, I pay a guy $45 an hour. No, let's go ahead and put 22% to 25% on top of that for all the wages, all the taxes, taxes, the benefits, PTO, vacation, stuff like that. And if you're charging $100 an hour because you really don't know what you're doing, and your guy is making 55 of that 100, you're making 45.
Yeah.
You got a problem. And who's going to get screwed?
The shop owner.
Right.
Now, let me ask you a question then. Can the shop owner still be a working tech and be really know the numbers and be effective as what you're implying?
I will tell you what I believe, and this is what I got taught from Mike Lee. If you're a shop owner and you're a mechanic and you work in your shop, you know what you'll get? Fixed cars.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a business owner and you work on your business will run good.
Right.
When I was a tech, I was also the service advisor too. I never really had to run the business. What I do on a daily basis, it would be really tough for me to work on cars.
Right.
I would get, I don't. Now, can it be done? If you're a one-man show, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
You could write your service. You could do everything. You're just going to work a lot of hours. I run a commercial operation, so I'm a very very deliberate guy of chains of command. Like I said in my other podcast, short, I have two guys that were both my head guys. I said, listen, I'm going to give you each 10% of my company. We're going to go to the lawyer, and I'm going to give you 10% of the profits. That means you're going to take 10% of the shit too.
Yeah.
So you're going to run the shops when I'm not there, and you're going to run it like it's your own because you get 10% of the profits. I write them guys pretty big bonus checks. They both have company trucks. I pay for their fuel. I pay for their insurance. I'm glad to have them.
Right.
Not one time, me or my wife, you know what she said to me the other day when we wrote bonus checks, their quarterly bonus checks? She's like, this makes me really happy we get to do these for these guys. They work their ass off for us.
That's pretty.
And you know what? And that makes me proud that I could say I can do what I do for these people because of how I am.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I'm bragging a little bit, but it makes me feel good.
No, it's nothing wrong with bragging. I mean, it's, I like to see people brag about when they're bragging about how they treat their people. I've heard enough people blow smoke about what their shop did, for hours or numbers or whatever, car count and all ARO and all that kind of stuff like that puts me to sleep. But when people start to talk about how they treat their people, that's what really gets me fired up, right? Is because, and I think people should brag about that. I think it's the next metric that we really need to delve into in this industry is like how really, because everybody, I've talked about it. Around where I am, everybody thinks if they're not paying flat rate, they're really doing the technicians that work for them a solid. And yeah, sometimes if the market sucks or you have low performing service advisors that won't sell the proper time, yeah, you might be taking care of me by paying me hourly. But like I've also seen lots of people who go, I pay my guys hourly. And when you clock out at the end of the day and look at what they did, those techs are turning 12, 15 hours a day for them. And yet they paid them 8 hours, pay. That's not looking after them. Right. So
no, I agree with that. And it goes both ways. I've had situations where here's one. When my very first shop I worked at, Hal's, I was in commission.
Mm-hmm.
If we finished a job and it didn't get picked up, we didn't get paid for it. How messed up is that?
I don't understand that because I've talked to so many guys that work at the dealerships and it's the same thing. Like when the truck is finished, warranty has not paid them out yet. So they haven't been paid. I see when I was there, that was never the case. As soon as I handed the work order and the keys over, normally the next day or within the day after, I was paid for that job. Even if the claim hadn't been paid yet, I got paid because they knew so many is because we did a pile of warranty work. We did a pile of retail work too, but the bulk of it was started out as warranty. If they didn't pay you, you weren't looking at the next car. That was just how we were. It was like, why am I going to look at this if I these technicians that say, I put an engine in or I got an engine on teardown and it's been 3 weeks to wait for an auditor to come in or whatever like that and I haven't got paid for my time. I look at them and go, you guys are nuts. You're stupid. How do you keep all that straight? Right. And I know how I used to do it. I had a notebook, lots of technicians, I wrote down every RO number that I did, what my time was supposed to pay out. And then when you got your flag sheet the next day, you just looked at the two numbers at the end and went, cool. I was supposed to get 12. I got 12. That's all I really cared about. These guys that are like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month before they get paid out on job, I just say, nah, that ain't for me. Look, just pay me my 8 hours. I'm going to come in. I'll give you all the time that I can give you in that day. And that's it. I'm not trusting you to not fuck it up, to not screw me, Yeah. They're big jobs. Yeah. So, and when they're fleets, you're still taking 50% right up front? Okay. Right. But if a mom and pop construction company had a fleet and you do the whole fleet, like you look after it, you're making them pay 50% up. I like that. Oh, okay. Yeah. You got to be flexible. You got to be flexible. Like somebody was just talking in another conversation about how, we provide a service. Not every customer necessarily drinks the coffee in the waiting room, but everybody pays for the coffee in the waiting room. Like not everybody, sucks up the air conditioning, but, everybody pays for the air conditioning. That's where, you build your, whatever you want your experience for the customer off the sake of everybody. And that's why some people can hold different value. some customers are just more valuable to you than other customers, right? I always understood that from even as a flat rate tech standpoint. Like I had customers that if I was doing the oil change and, try to think of an example here. They asked me to throw a cabin air filter in it, and I was doing the oil change and the tire rotation. I just throw the cabin air filter in it for them. The other customers, I wouldn't you had to pay me the 0.3 to put the cabin air filter because I had never seen that customer again. I didn't have a rapport with that customer. Like we didn't have, history going back. And they're like, well, why are you flex? Why? Because I know that customer that I have a relationship with. Right? It's the same, the joke I'll get you on the next one. Some customers really will get you on the next one. But then other times the shop just says that and you don't ever get it back. And I think that's got a lot to do with how some techs, their attitude seems like they won't do anything. But I know lots of techs that are very generous with their time. It just, you have to appreciate them and you have to pay them when you're supposed to pay them. And then they'll turn around and they'll help you out, when you don't. Like I go back all the time to wiper blades, right? We used to say all the time they ran a wiper promo and they didn't pay us to put blades on. We didn't put the blades on. We put them on the front seat and the advisors would put the blades on. And then the advisors would crack the windshield and bend the arms, all the shit and everything else. And pretty soon they just started paying the technicians 0.2 to put the wiper blades on. Like it was just, and you're like, well, why did you have to get paid to put wiper blades on? Well, because sometimes they would send it to the back for just an oil change and 2 wiper blades. And, you might spend 0.6 to not 0.6, excuse me, 0.1 to 0.2 fucking with a set of blades while you stood at the parts counter and waited for them to get them and, blah, blah, blah. For free. Why would you do that? It wasn't right. So, yeah. 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 And that's eventually Chrysler had to come out with a program like that where they spiffed you on if you sold more wiper blades, more air filters, then they would give you like $1 at the time. But I mean, so, and that's probably they got us cheap then because it's like we're doing an oil change and I get $2 more because I put 2 wiper blades on. Wipers are a thing for me too because it's like it's the first thing that I turn on in every car when I get into it. Because it's my own pet peeve of mine. I probably change mine on my Jeep like probably every 2 months. Because as soon as they streak, get noisy, do anything, I throw them in the trash and I get another pair. And it doesn't matter, up here they're like $50 sometimes for a pair of good blades. I don't care. It drives me crazy to like or not clean windshield. Like it's such a safety thing for me. It's so stupid, but it was just the way the advisors were like, or at the time it was the manager. Well, you guys should just do that for free. Everything. So like it would be so simple if everything could be done for free. It's because we don't have to have the tough conversations then, right? But this industry is about having tough conversations. So yeah. Yep. Yeah. Are you familiar, Kevin, with some of the talking industry, the 300% rule? Okay. Is it something you follow or what? Now, in the non-fleet situations, so I'll ask you this kind of question, right? Your technician, they do the MPI, multi-point, DVI, whatever. And, the technician creates the estimate. The estimate gets tabled to the customer. The customer declines some work, all work, whatever. Next time customer returns for an oil change 3 months, 4 months, 6 months down the line, you go through the same process again, same DVI, same MPI, same 300% rule, how are you guys handling when Mrs. Smith calls and makes an appointment? Do you pull her last RO and look at her recs and on the phone with her or through email at that point, are you starting to say to her, Mrs. Smith, last time you were in, we noticed this and this. Are you interested in having that done? Okay. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Because I know I struggled with the first shop I ever worked in where we got really hard on the 300% rule and the DVI and the, multi-point. It's because we would do these elaborate inspections and these big, found all this stuff and it was, red, green and yellow and, all that nonsense of yellow shouldn't even exist. It should be red or green. That's it. Anyway, then we would prep these estimates. We would see these customers come back sometimes a year, 2 years later. They've been still coming in from that original DVI that we did for them, and none of that work has been done yet. And at some point, Kevin, do you cut that customer off from the fray and say no, or what's the sense in doing the DVI and the MPI and paying your advisor to do the 300% rule and apply it to everything if the customer will not do the work. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Right. This is my first time. Yeah, I was going to say maybe he thought because of the average age of the person riding around in the van, they couldn't hear the exhaust leak, but they would certainly start to sweat and they might smell bad. I'm not, no. Okay. That's okay. Yeah, or we're watching and we leave a letter out, or it gets, dyslexic kicks in, right? And you have the A before the U, and yeah, okay, A before the U. No. Yeah, especially if it's a warranty thing. Because if it's a warranty thing, it may just have a labor op number with hardly any kind of description at all to what it was, right? Especially if it's a warranty thing and it's a known pattern failure. I've seen it. I haven't done it because it was back a long time ago. But I would see it where it was like customer addresses, check engine light on, labor op number as per bulletin replaced, blah. There's no real description there. It's performed labor op number and that's it. And I was like, the customers just like accept that? Well, when they're not paying, it's free repair, right? It's a warranty. But if you think dealer people that are listening, when all of a sudden it seems like the car hits, 101,000 kilometers up here, 101,000, you never see that customer again. It's because sometimes we haven't even explained to them what they've been doing. The car's left and it's been fixed, but nobody had a conversation with them about what we actually did to fix the car, because that advisor had 100 customers to deal with that day, and he didn't have time to stop and talk to Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Brown about each one of their complaints and what they did. They just don't have time, right? So I think chat is going to be a great thing to be able to, my reluctance with all this tech sometimes, there was a conversation that happened about it last week, is like I've worked with advisors that don't want to talk on the phone or don't want to talk at the counter. They want the DVI done. I would get so frustrated with this one young lady because I would go out and I would say, the customer's standing there waiting. And I would go out and say, yep, I checked it out. The brakes are shot. Needs brakes. Calipers are pushed back, needs pads and rotors front. And she would not prep the estimate, address the car, address the customer standing there until the rest of the multi-point DVI was filled out and submitted electronically, so she could then go over to the customer with the DVI and show them the rest of the DVI. And I'm sitting here going, if we call by now, we can get that parts run that's always happening now. We can have these parts here in 10 minutes. With your fucking around, we're going to be an hour and a half before we're going to get these parts because we're not going to get the next run. Shit like that would drive me nuts. So the process that they were taught was like, when the DVI is finished and you have the multi-point filled out, that's when you then table the estimate. And I'm like, the customer's in front of you. It's $600 to do brakes. Are you interested in spending $600 today? Yes or no? No? Okay, I'll have them put the wheels back on. Yes, you are? Okay, I'll get the parts coming. The DVI at that point, right, can wait. It will still get done. That stressed me out, or they don't even want to phone the customer. They just want to sit there and go, well, I sent them a text and I sent them an email. I'm just going to sit here and wait. You call them up. Right. Mm-hmm. It is because, and I'll tell you why that is because the technicians in the back, there's a lot of them, right? So it's a very competitive thing. And you're selling a lot of stuff early, if necessary at all. That's the stretch. Because otherwise, there isn't enough work just coming in that's going to get you 8 hours that day. There's so many techs now that if you had so many scheduled recalls and pre-sold services, there's always more techs than there is work. So it's implied that you're going to find the rest of the work now. Now, I've said this before, and everybody, dealer technicians are absolutely way too aggressive. Yeah, because if they only relied on the work that came in, they'd only make 5 hours a day. And who wants to go to work and only make 5 hours? Not a flat rate technician, unless they were there, unless they're going home at 11, 5 is okay. Right? But if they're going to be there from 8 in the morning until 5 at night, they want at least 8 hours, at least. So that's why you'll see them that service interval is not really happening yet, but we've got it on extreme use, and that's why we're selling it that way. I worked at a dealer like that. That's how we all made money, because there was too many of us. I stopped. I saw something about that, and it was like it's under warranty, right? So now she's gonna, yeah, that 6.2 engine recall. It's funny at the lot that I'm working at right now. This morning, we've got we have a fleet of rental units as well. So we've got 2 Silverados right now that have gone to the dealer for that recall. One, they did an oil change, changed the cap, sent it back. The other one, they didn't even change the oil, just changed the cap, sent it back. And we're like, they're like, well, we'll just monitor it. And we're all like, well, these are rentals. Like they get used hard. And we know that as soon as the warranty's up, we're flogging them anyway. We're not going to, we probably won't even sell these to, on our lot to a customer because we don't want to see it after the fact. We'll probably ship it to auction because it's a 6.2 and a Silverado, right? Like it's not something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And I do too, because you hear me harp all the time about how I'm not pro flat rate because most of the time in the experience of the dealer. But the reality is like some of these guys that, yes, they're fast at getting those jobs done for sure. They're fast, but some of them could be still fast and the quality would go to another level if we just like put, I don't know, I guess if we ran the matrix. If they could run the matrix, I guess, on a warranty repair the way we do in the aftermarket, Kevin, I think it would make that little 10% difference of the quality that would come out of the dealership. I really do. Because every dealer tech I've met, most of them, they genuinely want to do a really, really good job. Because the truck is still relatively new, right? But there's always like this pressure that like get this done. I know it's a 28-hour ticket, but you did one last week in 2 days. So I've got the customer told that they can pick it up Tuesday night at 5. Well, guess what? You don't want to have that conversation and tell the advisor because he's going to be like, he's going to go to the service manager. The service manager is going to walk out and go, "What's wrong with you? You did the last one in 2 days. This one, what's fucking taking you so long?" I would love it. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you probably, I don't know how far back you've listened to me, but I used to, for the longest time, I used to say that it was crazy that we put the technicians on flat rate and we put the advisors on a salary. I've always thought that should have been flipped because I've seen so many lazy, unmotivated, no skin in the game advisors and for 2 reasons. Sometimes their basic wage was shit and they worked for somebody that gave them no commission because they didn't want them to know how much the shop was really making. And then even, I'm not giving even 1% of that. Or they were like so comfortable on what their basic wage was, salary, whatever it might be, that it was more money than what they would have made at McDonald's. And yes, you had to have some difficult conversations with the customers, but it was like, I got, a different uniform and a comfier chair. I can sit here and look at this keyboard versus standing at a window going, "Do you want fries with that?" And so they weren't really all that motivated to sell. They didn't push that next little bit to get the customers sold because I can remember we had an advisor. He was new. And we told him, "Oh yeah, you sell whatever a month, you get a bonus." Well, it was tire season up here and he hit it big time selling tires. He got just about 50% of his customers that came in. He sold 4 new tires on their car. Well, at the end of the month, they looked at that and they went, "Oh yeah, we should have told you tires weren't part of that. Sorry." And they fucked him. Well, you could see, Kevin, his attitude to the whole place changed just like that. And they completely did it because they had never told him tires weren't legit, like didn't work towards it. They just never had somebody sell that many tires and they would have had to send this kind of bonus out at the end of the month. They lost money to him. So he went there again. He didn't care if he sold an estimate or not. He didn't care. I don't see, it's funny, eh? I don't really know. Think that probably like when I was at my core, like my good old days at the dealer, I think a couple of the advisors were probably back then hitting 6 figures. Then the one probably maybe hit 50K. Now he didn't push hard because he said like he had an ex-wife that the more money he made, the more money she made. So he was not motivated. The 2 were like, they were sharks. And I'm sure. So back then around 2004, I want to think they were probably hitting 6 figures. Back then they were not hitting 6. back then. I don't know of a technician up here that's making 6, especially working in a dealer, because there's just not, in Ottawa, which is 2 hours away from me, and the door rates are a little bit higher and the money's a lot better. There might be a couple guys at some of the high-end cars lines making 6, but 60 to 70, I think, is probably typical up here. 68. Yeah. That's, I like I said before, I won't go back to work at a dealer, not because I can't do the work or can't get the cars done or whatever. I don't like the kind of person that I am when I work there under that environment. I do not like me, because I am the type that, like, my coworker could be sitting next to me and him and I could get along really good. But if he's struggling with something and I know the answer, when I'm flat rate, I probably won't give it to him, because I can hope that he'll like wash his hands of it, put the keys on the board, and I'll get a chance at that car. That's how I was brought up when I was flat rate at the dealer. That's how we were pitted against one another. When I'm hourly, I'll go and spend 20 minutes with him and teach him a lesson on, how to analyze that data better and how to fix that car. Because we're all as a team. This idea that you flat rate people in a dealership, and a lot of shops even heavy incentivized flat rate, and think you're a team. I'm not such a good team player, because I want, if he can't do it and I can, I want that work order. That's the way I look at it. If he can't and I can, I want them all. That just seems to me the right way to do it, because like, you want it fixed, he can't fix it, I can, that means I get it. And yet, they don't. I've worked in dealers where it's like, well, you all got to get along. Why do we all have to get along? Like, we're literally competing with each other. You're showing me, the hour sheets that go around, and you see the same tech number at the top of it every week after week. He's at 150 and everybody else is at, for a 2-week period, is at 80, Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so start this. With front end, we all at the dealer that I worked at way back in the day became very good at it, because we had 2 alignment racks that were not like anybody could use those racks. 2 technicians lived on them. They did all the alignments, but they would be like, being Dodge products, they were written up all the time for front end noises, right? Squeaks, rattles, bumps, clunks, the whole thing. So we all got very good at doing steering racks in them, doing, ball joints in 2500s, about 3500s, 4500s, the whole thing. The recalls for the Jeep Liberty, when they had the ball joint recall, we could do them so fast to make your head spin. Like, we were all good at front end, but only 2 guys did alignments. So none of us were ever doing alignments, but we all did front end, because they would have had to then have 2 less techs in the shop and not doing oil changes or brakes and things. So the way alignments went in front end in general was that at the end of the day, those 2 guys that only did alignments, that's all they did from lunch on, was finish up the alignment. So I may do a tie rod end and then it need alignment, and it would sit there the rest of the day until he could get to where he could set the toe after I did the tie rod end, right? All day long. That's not necessarily the way to do it, I think. But if there was no alignments that day, they could still do oil changes and brakes and tires and everything else on that rack, right? That's how they treated it. We got all really good at doing front end. So I can't say that I was good at alignments until I got out of that shop. I wasn't, because I never did one. Didn't do one for 8 years. But the guys that would come in and say, oh yeah, I used to work across the street at GM. I'm here now because, you pay $1 more an hour flat rate, and I do drive bill electrical. And I'm like, okay, cool. I would teach them how to do this system in terms of like how to navigate the Chrysler service system. And then I would just watch them after a little bit, how they approach doing Diag and drive billing. I'm like, you don't know how to do drive billing electrical. Like, you don't. You know how to fix maybe the GMs, you know the common pattern failures, but you don't know how to necessarily apply that process to this brand, right? And that's so when you talk about being able to, the bullshit meter, yeah, mine became very tuned in, very good for one particular facet of fixing cars. The rest of it, it's like asking me an AC problem. I'm not your guy. Yeah. We would, if I got handed one and it was like car pulls, the first thing we all were taught to do was check the tire pressure, make sure that it's got the same fucking 4 tires on it, right? Not 2 of one kind and 2 of the other on different supposed sizes. And then here's what's the crazy thing. You fucking rotated the tires, either front to back or left to right. And oh my God, 85% of the time it fixed the fucking pull. Because none of the dealers at the time that I worked in we didn't have road force that could set it up to either, do you want, minimal vibration or do you want minimal pull? That's why I love those machines. I had a good conversation with somebody at Tools and they're like, how come shops don't, more shops aren't doing road force? I'm like, I don't know. Cause I said, to me, it's the right way to balance. And if you're not doing it, you're not really truly getting the best balance of tire. Well, it takes so much longer. So why don't you sell it? Sell it to the customer. Yeah. Oh, well, it could take, because you could put 4 tires on and go road force it and it could force match all 4 and you're back to the machine, break them down, spin them. Okay. But is the tires now the best balance they're ever going to be on that rim? Yeah. Well, then that's the right way to do it, right? Yep. Well, yeah. Yes. So help me out with the math then. 4 tires for you guys did I do the math right? Is you're almost 2 hours at 4? And then retrain the TPMS. See, and there's all the people in the tire business, because people have listened to me for years. I hate the tire business because I think it's a joke. Not a joke in the sense you can't make money, but it's like I feel like there's a whole lot of shops that should just do tires and shouldn't have done anything but tires, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, but yeah. I see it all the time, Kevin. Guys say I can't charge more than 1.2 to do 4 tires and rebalance. And I go, what the fuck? Why can't you? Especially if you're road force, the customer don't pay for it. Are you explaining what road force really is? Are you explaining why it takes you longer to do it because you're doing a better job? Well, no, not really. Okay, why are you not explaining? Well, my wife, the advisor, doesn't really understand. Okay, so what are you? Yeah. Oh, 100%. How to make that money. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we have that conversation in the groups almost once a week. Let me ask you something. Somebody posted last week about a customer comes to you and says they need this done because of whatever reason. And somebody responded with, you asked the customer, why do you think you need that? Somebody very well known in the industry from a coaching group said that is the wrong answer. That is the wrong answer, the wrong way to talk to the customer. That is a very, aggressive question. You're not serving them. You're supposed to just say, yes, okay, when can I have you come in and do that? And this is a person that's very successful, very well known, is telling us that the verbiage that we used is wrong. Yet you seem to be the type of person that's just like, it's very straightforward. Like you're going to ask, they're going to say, I'm here for a tune-up. Do you say, okay, we're doing a tune-up, or do you ask them, why do you think you need a tune-up? Okay, good. No, don't feel bad. Yeah. Okay, so the next question I had for you, because I'm trying to get a feel for where you are aligned with versus some of the other people I have conversations with. There's talk in the industry sometimes about doing free Diag or complimentary Diag. So like if a customer calls up and says, I have a check engine light on, blah, blah, blah. The car seems to be running fine with the check engine lights on. Do you answer with, okay, my initial inspection fee is going to be $149.95. That includes a scan, 1 hour labor spent, check for TSBs, visual inspection, rack the car, all that kind of stuff. Or do you, okay, bring it in right away and we'll have a look at that for you? Mm-hmm. Because like some people have felt that what they have to spend in marketing just to offset now the cost of charging for Diag, they've been able to reduce some of their marketing costs by doing complimentary Diags. Now, I'm not trying to say that like if the customer comes in with an intermittent thing won't start and it's a CAN problem that they're doing that Diag for free. But a lot of what is, check engine lights on, got a little bit of a misfire maybe or a chuggle or something like that. They just inspect the car, scan the codes, do the visual, do the whatever, perform a relative compression test, something like that, swap a coil real quick, and then they sell the repair. Because it's offsets, they don't have to spend all this money every year in marketing and flyers and customer acquisition, all kind of stuff, because they just are saying yes. Yeah. 20,000. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, when you think about it, for the people that are listening, the idea that you would not take $20,000 and just stroke it from your invoices for next month because to try something, right? Like that idea that Kevin probably makes you sick to your stomach to throw $20,000 out the window. Because yeah. So that makes an interesting point, because we had a talk. I talked with a guy from TikTok just the other day. Now you might have seen him. We've been going back and forth a little bit. Frank from 3D Auto. He's up in Elmer, Ontario here. And Frank does a lot of those videos that are talking about the new safety inspections that we're having to do in Ontario, right? With the tablet and the whole thing. And Frank's been doing really good about showing people, well, see this rusted car that somebody just bought? It didn't have an inspection. Now they want a safety done, and I have to condemn the car because it's rotten. The frame has been already welded and fixed. That won't pass. Frank and I got talking. This is when you talk to me about, what are techs making a door rate. Around him, a door rate's still at $100 an hour. That's the typical door rate. Everybody, if they went to 110, they would lose their business. That's the thing. Is there any way in this industry that we could all, without being accused of collusion, could sit down and say, okay, tomorrow we all open up, it's 150 minimum no matter where you are. Done. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nuts. Still. Yeah. Okay, so I worked at a shop that had a really high labor rate, and it was probably $30 higher than most of the other 3 shops that were, say, within 5 miles. It was like $30 more an hour. What that tended to do was that the owner started looking at each repair total cost. And what I found him doing was he was shaving labor out of it to try and bring it back down to a competitive number, which then makes the tech look really inefficient, because we were working on a lot of 10 and 12-year-old cars that needed more time. And we were shaving the labor because the door rate was higher than everybody else, because he was paying higher than everybody else. Like, he was the highest paying tech or shop around, but and he had the labor rate to support it. But then he was not running when he should have run a matrix, because the car was 10 years old and the matrix should have put it up another, 25, 40% on time. He wasn't doing that because it pushed the price way out of the stratosphere of what people would then do. Right. And we do have, my area is known for people price shopping really bad. They know like what Midas will charge for brakes. So then it becomes a situation. Okay, I already had a set of Midas brakes, Midas for life, and they make noise, and I'm never fucking going back to Midas again. But like, I don't want to pay more than what Midas pays for brakes. So you have to make them come in under that price. Even though I wasn't happy with the Midas brakes, that's the price that I'm not paying more than. Yeah. All stuff. Mm-hmm. We just lost the camera. Yeah. That's still the game they're playing there, Kevin. And I'll tell you a story. My years ago at the dealer, my service manager had the brilliant idea that he wanted to run a brake promo where you got pads and rotors on the front of anything for $250 out the door. Labor, parts, all that stuff. So what he did is, and this is at a Chrysler store, but we were then went and bought a pallet. The brand name, I'll never forget. No, your camera's still gone. Well, I'll never forget the name of the rotor was Enrobo, Enrobo. And I don't know if they were ever sold in the US or not, but they came from Quebec. And he would buy a pallet, a skid, like as tall as I was back then, full of all these different part numbers of rotors that would fit these Chryslers. Well, that promo ran about 3 months, and we did half of them over again on warranty, because most of them, when you would put them on, you would have to cut them after you put them on the car, or they'd make noise, or they'd pulsate. Like, it was just, it was crap. And it was terrible. So we did this brake promo for $250. And I remember we were at one point, like, if a customer came in and they had like a Chevy S10, can you do brakes on that for $250? Sure. Right. Like, it was everything that you could come in the door, with the exception of like, a solid axle 250 8 lug, Dodge. No, we couldn't do that for $250. Rotors are too expensive, right? But we did every fucking neon and caravan and that we hadn't seen in years. All of a sudden, we're seeing these cars back for these $250 brake job. And you try to sell them the rest of the stuff. I'm like, nope, just the brakes. And it makes me laugh because I see that. I don't know if you watch Netflix and you've seen that series Tires.
Oh my God, that show killed me. I watched it last week.
I'm watching it for the second time again because it's, they start it with a cheap oil change. And there's the guy in the back goes, this fucking oil change thing doesn't work. We got to sell all these tires cheap. Well, I mean, it's so poignant because, like, how long have we been in this industry and we've said that loss leader oil changes don't work, right? But yet there's a real contingency group in the industry that's still showing you the numbers that it can work if you have a loss leader oil change to drive car count. Now, there's a lot you have to be able to execute on the back end, right, in order to make it work. That's what my local Midas does. Between their lifetime guaranteed brakes that we were talking about, where, yeah, they're guaranteed to make fucking noise, and every time you go in, the pads are free. But
right.
Like you're getting new rotors and calipers every time, and a flush every time, no matter what. You're getting, so it just became a ripoff. And my customers then would come into our shop and be like, but I could get them done at Midas. Why are you talking about getting them done at Midas? You've already had them done at Midas and you're not happy. Why are we still talking about what Midas can do for the price? What's it? Why? That's the part that makes me want to just like, my eye twitch and, wants to run to the back and, drive the air hammer into the side of the hoist, right? Because I can't have those conversations with people. It makes me frustrated.
One of the things that I did, which was, we started doing brake fluid flushes when we do brake jobs, and people flame me, but we do the moisture tabs and we look at it and we look at the brake fluid. I will tell you, when I started doing that, people, after we did their brakes, they were like, man, my brake pedal hasn't felt so good in a long time. So guys that say we're screwing people, they had their grandpa's car still has original brake fluid in it since 1985. Good for you. Things are different nowadays. There's all kinds of valves and ABS parts and stuff like that they demand you to change the oil and keep the moisture down. If you look at the cars, the maintenance logs or schedules in the owner's manual, a lot of them recommend it. So you're not ripping anybody off if the manufacturer recommends it.
Well, I talk all the time about Nissan. They've been running .4 forever. So like every Nissan that I saw the factory OE published service interval, it was 20,000 kilometers, not miles, kilometers, or 12 months every time I got a fluid flush, brake fluid flush. And people would just pay it. Like they just were like, hey, if it says so, it says so. And I'm like, you it's been a year, yeah, but you went 500 kilometers. Like you probably could go. No, get that fluid flush. And I'm like, okay, pays me an hour, I'll do it. No problem. But and that's the thing. Like I'm not as meticulous on my own maintenance. Like I've been driving my Wrangler for 3 years. I haven't flushed the fluid yet in it, but I will when the brakes. I have to change the pads and rotors soon. When I do, I'll flush the fluid then. But I mean, I try to always advocate for my customer, but I have to admit that like sometimes I advocate better for them than I do for myself.
Yeah. Well, I have all my trucks on a maintenance schedule. All my pickup trucks in my companies, everybody's truck is a trans flush once a year. We do the brake fluid. We do it. We don't cut rotors anymore, like most people don't. I put rotors and pads on stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm very meticulous about my company vehicles because, like, here's an example. My body shop, the pickup truck started rusting. I either pull that thing in, put fender flares on it, or get a bed for it, or sell the fucking thing. We'll go buy a new one. We're not going to be the premier truck body shop in Brighton, Michigan, driving around with a rusty ass truck. What does that say about us? My guys are like, you're anal retentive. I go, no, that's just simple freaking brains. You can't drive a rusty truck around being a collision shop. It's kind of like the guy that comes over to your house that says he's the best roofer in the world. He's got 3 different wheels on his truck that's falling apart and leaking oil all over your driveway and 1 broken ladder. What does that say about him?
Yeah. It's saying that he's not putting the money that he's making off you back into the business is what it says at the very minimum.
Casino, right?
Yeah. Going back to TikTok, I get some flack once in a while for being on it. Or, I have some friends that are like, they're holding out on it. But like, I'm sure, and I see you a lot and you see me a lot. It's been I have to say, it's probably been very good for you, right? As it has for me. Like you mentioned some key names that like a year ago, I didn't know who Brandon Sloan was. It's been a little over a year. I didn't know who Chuck was. Like, it's been so good for me. Ryan Mullen, what an amazing young man well, he's not a young man, but what an amazing young tech he is for how long he's been in the industry. The level that he's gotten at so fast is incredible. I would have never known these people existed if it wasn't for TikTok. Not at all.
I agree. I talked to a guy in Romania, Europe, about his motorcycle shop the other day. I thought that was just cool as hell. He said, I sit there and watch all your videos. And I talked to a kid in Alaska yesterday. I watch all your videos. I'm like, how cool is this? I'm in somebody's house in Alaska and they're watching me. I just found that fascinating. I got on TikTok just because I thought it was fun. Then I kind of started my podcast. I started my podcast a year ago. Then I got on TikTok. Then I realized when I'm watching all these guys, I realized there's a place for me to talk about running a profitable shop. This is kind of where I'm at. It's fun.
Now, I mentioned it to you and you hadn't given me an answer back yet. And I'll mention it again. We have an event coming up in September in North Carolina, Raleigh, and called ASTA. And I've asked you if you're thinking about coming. As far as I know right now, Chuck's coming, Brandon's coming. They were both there last year. That was Chuck's first event. That was Brandon's kind of not first major event, but first event where it was a lot of business owners. So he traditionally had gone to like other transmission and driveline kind of, shows. But I'm asking you because I think you would really, really, really enjoy it. And I think a lot of people, once they got to talk to you, would really enjoy you, if you know what I mean, in terms of your straightforwardness. And you've got an interesting story to tell, to share with a lot more people too. And I think you should really, if you can commit to it, Kevin, I think you should make the commitment to go.
What exactly is it? Why don't you go ahead and tell me what it is? It's not, whatever.
Now you're gonna put me on the spot here. ASTA. So it says Trade Show and Expo, Raleigh, North Carolina, September 24th to 7th or 23rd to 7th, I believe is the dates. It's the Automotive Service Tire Alliance is what it is.
Okay.
North Carolina. And it's the biggest trade show that happens in that section of the country. And it's quickly really becoming the go-to event of the year. Like you probably have you heard of Vision before?
No.
Okay. So see, this is an interesting thing because we talk all these time about these destination training events, how there's so many people in the industry who've never even heard of them, right? So Vision is the one that was always known forever, but ASTA is the first one I went to 3 years ago, right as COVID was wrapping up. And it changed my life in terms of networking with other shop owners and other technicians. The first time I went, Kevin, I didn't even have the podcast yet. And then it was like, I went there, met all these really cool people that I had a really bad attitude about shop owners and a lot of techs. And then I went and did this event and I came away with a lot better understanding about what shop owners are, who they are, what they're like and why. And that was key for me.
Is there training events and stuff there?
It's all training. If you want to take technical training, if you want to take business training, I'll send you the links and you can check it out, but it's ASTA, ASTA.
Yeah, I'll probably come. You know what? I absolutely love going to business training courses because you could always learn something from anything. 100%. I just like numbers. I like running my businesses lean. I like running them clean. So I would definitely be interested in going and doing something like that or looking into the training.
I think you'd be an asset to have there because it's like you're going to be able to meet a lot more people that like haven't got to where you are, but you're also going to talk to some people like that have been coaching and training and consulting as you're doing for a really long time and have a big success at it, right? And you're going to be able to share some of the things and you might not get a ton out of the training from the business side of it because you're already doing a lot of things very well and you're already forward thinking, have been a while. But I still think you would get a kick out of the networking that goes on, and I think it's going to be really to your benefit to go.
Yeah, and I've never had any. I've talked to Chuck one time, Messenger for a minute or something, a couple of just exchanges, but I've never really talked to Brandon or Chuck or anything. So, that Craig guy,
Chris Craig, yeah, he's actually speaking at the event. He's presenting,
he's sharp kid. Sharp.
Very sharp kid. Yeah.
And I always tell him, hey, you know what I always do too? I always tell these guys, man, I like your content. Because I think sometimes they need to hear it. He said back to me the other day, I really like yours. You definitely, I forget what he said. He basically said, yeah, you always give us new content to talk about.
And him and I, like, sometimes it seems, I think if people read the comment threads back and forth, because like most of his videos, I comment at least once. And, you know, and he's not like, I'll say this, he's very good and very professional at what he's doing, and it's coming out very well. We don't always see eye to eye at the same on everything. He is strictly like, his whole thing is dealer, right? Is dealer. He's the company that he works for, Rock Ed, is about enabling service advisors to be better at the dealerships, you know, so that's his number one ticket. So that's why it always kind of comes from that perspective. So again, of course, a lot of my dealer experience gives me like PTSD, right? And then it triggers me and I go into rants. But I've had him on before. He was a guest on my podcast probably a year ago, and he's a super sharp guy. He's presenting. Chuck will be there. Brandon, Paul Danner, Scanner Danner will be there. Just a lot of other people.
What about Mr. Subaru? I see him pop up once in a while. Do you guys
there last year? I did an interview with him. I think he's coming this year. He is a super guy too. A lot of people don't know how to take him, and then when you meet him and you talk to him and you understand, you get it where he's coming from. He's just he's like you. He's very blunt, straight to the point. If he doesn't know, he's not going to pretend he knows, but he knows a lot about a lot of things. And when he's right, he's going to tell you that he's right. You know.
Yeah. What about what is it? Dave's Automotive. Dave?
I would love to get Dave's Auto to attend, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, who's that? You know who else videos I like is it Emerald Automotive?
Oh, Royalty.
Yeah, Royalty. They seem like they do a pretty good job too. I watch them and listen to him talk. He's a sharp guy.
He is a very sharp guy. They own 2 stores in Georgia, 2 or 3. Actually, Andrew Fisher, who is going to be a trainer at Aston, going to be presenting. He used to work with Sherwood at one of their stores, at one of their shops, and then Andrew moved back up. Trying to think where he lives now. But he moved back across country and is now running a shop and doing very super. I talked to him at Lancaster, but I don't know if Sherwood's coming. I'm going to reach out to Sherwood. I'm going to reach out to Ivan from Pine Hollow. Those talk that he might make it, which Ivan I don't see on TikTok, but he's huge on Facebook or huge on YouTube, obviously. Eric O from South Maine. We're hoping that he comes. I haven't heard yet. Keith Perkins from L1 Automotive Training and Diagnostics. He's attending. He's a super sharp guy. I talk to him a lot. It's Lucas and David from Changing Industry. They'll be there. Mike Allen, who I think you really should meet. If you make it, I'll definitely introduce you to Mike because you two are kind of the similar, kind of same type of, you know, peas and carrots type thing. So,
you know, one thing that I'd like to go there. One thing I forgot what I was going to say. Damn it! It'll pop back. It must have been online, but it'll pop back into my head in a minute. But yeah, I'd be interested in doing it. How is it? How busy is it as far as hotel rooms? Do I need to book now?
We should probably get you booked soon. Yeah.
If you send me a link and all that stuff, I would probably take Jason. Jason, you didn't get to meet Jason yet. I went on Jason's podcast about a year and 2 months ago, and I signed up at the same studio. I did some podcasts. I went on his podcast. I ended up clicking with him. So I just started my own studio. I just said, fuck it. I'm not going to pay somebody. I took one of my rooms, redid it, as you could see. And I brought him on. So we're kind of doing stuff together because he does consulting too.
Okay.
He doesn't know anything about the repair business, but I do. So
yeah,
I've been doing the consulting thing with him. But the one thing this is what I wanted to talk about. You know, the gentleman, I think his podcast or his TikTok is Changing the Industry.
So that's Lucas Underwood.
Okay.
Roman. Yeah.
He brought a very good point up. And I messaged him and we had a little bit of exchange, but one thing I wanted to bring up, which makes a lot of sense, is a lot of shop owners build the processes around their self.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get out of that process? That's a big thing because as a shop owner, it could eat you alive. So one of the good things is running your shop profitably so you could hire the right people so you could have your life back.
Yeah. And I'll share with you. So Lucas is kind of the reason that I'm I'm where I am, right? Lucas and I have been friends for almost 20 years. Lucas and I were friends on Facebook before there was ever a Change in Industry podcast, or there was ever a Jaded Mechanic podcast. It's because I did an episode of theirs way back when I was sitting unemployed during COVID, mad as hell about the industry, hated the industry. And Lucas had known me a long time and always had heard me kind of take the opinions and perspectives and share them on Facebook. And it really set up some core values on what he felt when he built his shop from 3 to now he's got a 10-bay garage mall. It's a beautiful facility in North Carolina. A lot of what I always didn't like, the scars that I took from the industry, what Lucas, when he built his shop and hired people, he didn't want them to go through what I went through or felt the way I did. So he set me up in this podcast. So Lucas is the engine in what I do. It's like this Jaded Mechanic podcast. So he is the guy. He is and then David, I always say Lucas and forget to, David is the other 50%. David is the genius behind all of it. David is the one that, realized how effective a podcast was and how it was taking off. And now everybody wants to do it. So if you can make it, yes, we'll sit down and, you'll get to know David and Lucas and you'll understand. Lucas is struggling right now because he has a very high, what's the word? It's very hard for him to step back from the business. He is very emotionally invested in it, the way he has built it. It's not a case of he won't hire good people. He won't pay good people. It's just that he's struggling to try and figure out how to step away from it and it still be what he wants in his mind, a proper run shop to be. His service manager that he hasn't had, I guess he had about 5-6 months. They just parted ways the other day. Lucas says that's going to be for the best. The shop is already doing better with him gone. So, you might be able to lend some perspective to Lucas on how to, be a little bit more removed and still be involved, if you know what I mean.
No, I agree. And, metrics put in place on people so they know what's expected of them is a good thing. Believe it or not, I like what I do so much. I work 5 days a week most time. In the summer, I take Fridays off usually to go up north or whatever. But lately I haven't, just because I'm having so much fun doing all this content and all this stuff. So I know exactly how he feels. But, I have gotten to the point now where I get up in the morning and I don't run out of the house. Like I might have a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? Because our whole life as techs, as business owners, there's always a fire to put out. I finally got it now that it's calm enough that I could just show up at 8:30 at my body shop, go over all the stuff with them guys, go down to Garrett's at 11. If I want to bug out at 3 o'clock, I could bug out at 3 o'clock. That's taken me 35 years. Now, it's a trained behavior because I worry myself sick when I'm out at the shop for a long time. But now that I told these guys, you have to talk to the managers, you can't call me. If it needs to come to my level, let them call me. Right. And 9 times out of 10, my guys are like, yeah, this shit can wait till Monday when you get back. They don't even tell me. I walk in Monday. These are the problems we had. This is how I handle it. Now, if they handled it not exactly how I would have handled it,
right,
I can't complain. I wasn't there. Did the place burn down? Did we lose customers? Are we getting sued? No. Well, the shit will happen. They'll learn.
Are they still a teaching moment right then and there when that happens?
Yes. Okay. I will correct it if it needs to be corrected. But 9 times out of 10, the 2 guys I have in place pretty much do the same thing I would have done.
Uh-huh.
Now, and I will tell you this, I short circuit my own processes. I don't know if I said that earlier. I short circuit my own I'm better off staying out of it. And I'm definitely better staying out of it if there's a customer problem. And if a customer's getting really unreasonable, I'm the wrong guy. I'm better off letting my service advisors deal with it or my managers, because I'm liable to tell them to go ahead and jump in a lake. You know what I mean? I just don't, I'm jaded. I'm the jaded mechanic at that point. I don't want to put up with it.
I know where it comes from 100%. And that's the thing. Like I keep saying that, like, I'm good at talking to customers, but it starts with how their attitude is towards me. Right. If they come at me with this like typical, oh, you're here to rip me off and, you're full of shit, I have no time for you. I have no patience for you. I don't it's not going to go well. You do not want me to come talk to that customer. But if you've got a very nice, receptive, inquisitive, curious customer, I'm your guy. Like, we're going to have a great conversation with Mrs. Smith, you know. But if you've got somebody out there that's got a problem car and they're already like trying again, then they're angry and they're skeptical, I'm probably not your guy. You know, there's a better advisor for that. So
I agree with that 100%. I'm fixing my TV here. As you see, we've been talking so long, all my cool stuff is happening here.
yeah, I won't keep you for much longer, Kevin. I wanted to ask about the ASTA thing, and I think because I think you and Lucas and David are going to have a really good conversation, and we might, when we get there, we might sit down and have a round table. David is everybody should meet David, and everybody should have a conversation with David. He's the smartest guy I know by far, David Roman.
What does he do?
He owns a shop in Kansas City. Yeah. And Lucas owns a shop in North Carolina. And then the two of them run that Changing the Industry podcast and the Changing the Industry group on Facebook. What is exactly they do? They just help people type of stuff and all that. So there's a mastermind group, which is kind of like for people that are struggling, shop owners that are struggling. The mastermind group happens behind the scenes, where it's essentially like consulting and coaching that you do, no charge to them. You know, they get in, why is an ARO important, and why, you know, all that kind of stuff. They go over all of that with them. And it's a sounding board for a lot of people to get in there and talk about, you know, how to make your shop better. Because Lucas and David both agree, like, if you're going to fix the industry, you got to fix the shops first. You know, we have a technician shortage for sure. And me being the technician in the room in a lot of these conversations, it's like they keep talking about technician competency and all that kind of stuff. And yes, it sucks. Some technicians shouldn't be techs, and some technicians need to do a lot more training and spend a lot more mere time really looking at who they really are. And the elephant in the room is, how good are you really? But there's a reason that young people won't work in shops for a lot of them, is because, frankly, the industry hasn't been good for a lot of them for a long time, and they've figured it out and they're not coming into it. You know, the kids that got sucked up in the Fast and the Furious days, like I did, and wanted to work on really cool stuff, and we saw the reality and we stuck it out, and now it's becoming better. It's only becoming better for us because there's a shortage, and like, you know,
we have no choice. I agree.
You know, the young people now that have figured out that this stuff is really hard and the tech is crazy, and a lot of people that you work for still don't want to pay, like your gentleman that you spoke to me about, right? Your newer hire that came from the shop down the road. I could show you so many technicians that message me every week, Kevin, that are exactly like that young man. And they're struggling to find a shop like yours where they get the right opportunity. Because as much as, like, in the sounding boards is all the technicians, every shop owner out there thinks they're great and they're doing well, and you know, they're trying as hard as they can. That doesn't mean that they're still a good employer for a lot of these young people. They can't necessarily nurture them up. They can't get them to, you know, take them from being a C tech to an A tech. They don't know how to do that. They know that I need to hire an A tech, but they don't know how to build a C tech into an A tech. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My best guy is a guy I trained by hand.
Yeah.
He worked with me for years out there in the shop, and you know, I'm glad to have him. And it's been definitely interesting, and it's only going to get hopefully better.
Yeah,
because people have to realize they have to start treating their techs better, or their techs are going to go somewhere else or quit the industry. A lot of them are right now, statistically, a lot of them are going to HVAC.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there's a lot of money in it, and they don't have to work as hard, and they only have to have minimal tools.
That's right. So if people want to find Kevin Brown, they find you at repairshopreconing.com.
Repair Shop Reckoning on YouTube. We got Garrett Auto and Truck Service. GarrettAuto.com. We have MotorCityTruckCollision.com. And we have TikTok, Repair Shop Reckoning, Instagram, Repair Shop Reckoning. I haven't built a website yet for it. And now I'm getting ready to launch Loudmouth Studio, which this studio that I put in place, guess what we're going to do? We're renting it out. Why not? It's sitting here. So Jason's going to spearhead that. And we already have people signed up. They're going to start doing podcasts out of our studio when it's idle, when I'm not using it.
Passive income, right? That's what it's all about.
Hey, I this is fun.
I know. I agree.
This is fun. I like this. This is the favorite part of my life now, building all this content, talking all kinds of shit. I'm very deliberate some of the stuff I say to get to clicks, but
Mhm.
and I poked you the other day, and it was just like, I just do it, and one thing I want people to understand, the shit I say, if they say stuff back to me, I don't take offense to it. Everybody is allowed to have their own opinion. That's okay. They could be wrong, but they could have their own opinion.
So I have to tell the backstory, and then I'll let Kevin go because he's a busy, busy man. The first time Kevin and I ever talked, we talked on the phone for over an hour because, again, the conversation had happened, and I had some opinions, and he had some opinions, and we didn't come away going, that guy's a jerk. Or I didn't come away going, that guy's full of himself. I think we both came away from that conversation with a lot of respect for each other and, what we're about. And we're essentially heading in the same direction, right? We're both trying to get the same end result. And, and that's why, when you poke me or you say things I think that are like, hey, Jeff's going to respond to that. I appreciate that because it means that you value my opinion and I certainly value yours. And, it's not a situation of you're right all the time because I'm not right all the time.
Absolutely.
If I was right all the time, I'd be very boring and I'd have quit already. So,
I have a wife that tells me I'm not right pretty much all the time.
So with that being said, Kevin, I will send you the links to ASTA. I hope to see you there.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it. And hopefully I'm again. I want to have you on my podcast eventually here.
Anytime. I would love to sit down with you guys for sure.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care, everybody. Love yous all as always. We'll talk to you soon.